time for the moment you've been waiting for. Preparing the Krabby Patty!
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I am drawing a Krabby Patty from Spongebob Squarepants. Now Spongebob has been a very popular thing and I absolutely love Spongebob. I have a lot of good memories from my childhood where I would watch Spongebob and it was a pretty good time. So today I'm going to try and draw a Krabby Patty in an interesting style. I still want it to be like an illustrative style, but I want to try and push the details in this and make it look sort of realistic, sort of illustrative, in that sort of middle ground where it looks delicious, but it is still definitely a cartoon. So today I'm using my mixed media paper because, as you can guess, we are going mixed media a little bit here. I'm going to be mainly drawing the Krabby Patty with my markers and my pencils for the line art. But for the background, I thought I would go a bit of a watercolor style. You see, I have these amazing watercolor paints here. They're very expensive and I barely use them. So I thought I would, get them out and have a little bit of fun because, as you know, SpongeBob is under the sea. So I thought watercolor would work very well for that. So with some other details, I wanted to go in with some gouache here. We have a few different colors of gouache. Now I wanted to try and do a bit of a pattern in the background for the gouache. And of course with the paints, we are going to be using paintbrushes. But since we are going a little bit of a wet media style today, I thought I would get some of my masking tape to tape the paper down so it doesn't buckle and bulge out. So without further ado, let's dive into it and draw ourselves a delicious Krabby Patty. So starting off, of course, I did tape this down onto my desk as I am using watercolor and I didn't want it to buckle, as I mentioned earlier, but also I really love the effect where you get a white border around the outside of the artwork. And I was really excited to include this in my artwork because, I don't know, I just really like the look of it, and yeah. To start off, I actually did make a very simple thumbnail sketch on my iPad, but that was really just a rough sort of sketched where I would, place a few different items and see what I liked. And I came up with the idea of having the Krabby Patty the main focus of the drawing and having like a knife and fork and the corner of the Krabby Patty secret formula in the foreground. I thought that that would be really nice because it would sort of like frame it with having the patterned SpongeBob sky background above the Krabby Patty and having those items underneath. Now I started off and I basically just sketched it out onto the paper with my Prismacolor Color Erase pencil, and then I erased it so I could only just see the lines, and then after that I actually did the line art over the top using my colored pencils. Now the colored pencils that I'm using for the line art today are actually Prismacolor Premier and Faber-castell Polychromos. These colored pencils are pretty great and I love them. I'm going in with watercolor for the background, and the color I'm using is Phthalo Cyanine Blue, which is a really nice bright sort of bluey green color, and I thought that would fit very well with the sort of water aesthetic that we're trying to go with. I used it pure and I didn't mix in any other colors because I really just wanted it to be as vibrant as I could get it. Now, I did use a little bit of workable fixative over the top, and I used a piece of paper to sort of protect the paper where the markers were going to go, and I really should have used a blank piece of paper, but I used an old sketch, and that kind of transferred a little bit of the ink from that sketch onto my art, which was a little bit of a downer, but to be completely honest, I was going over the top with gouache anyways, so I just strategically put some gouache details where those marks were, and it covered up pretty well. So as you can see, I'm using gouache for the details in the background. It is that lovely floral flower pattern that is very, very common in Spongebob. It is the sky, and I really love that aesthetic, and I definitely had to put that in because it wouldn't be Spongebob without it. Now for the table, I really wanted to add a nice sort of dark teal blue color, so I decided to go in with my dark blue marker for that. Now in SpongeBob SquarePants, the tables at the Krusty Krab are actually blue and yellow, but I didn't want to add any blue and yellow to the table because the Krabby Patty would have a lot of yellow on it and the sky has a lot of blue, and I really didn't want it to sort of blend in too much because I wanted the Krabby Patty to stand out. So that's why I decided to go with that really nice teal color. Now in the foreground, as you can see, I have a lovely piece of paper here, and this is going to be the Krabby Patty secret formula. I really wanted to have this in the foreground because I felt like it would just fit really well, and it gives a little bit more detail with the items in the foreground, and the way they're angled, it kind of aims your eyes up into the Krabby Patty, so it draws the attention to the Krabby Patty a bit, and I thought that that was a pretty cool idea. So for these items, I didn't want to draw too much attention to them, so I didn't add any special colors to them or anything. I just used a bit of neutral gray and cool gray, and then I used my brush pen to add the text onto this secret formula. Of course, the actual secret part of the secret formula is covered up and is out of view because who wants to give away the secret formula? So now onto the Krabby Patty itself, which was super fun to color in. I started off with some yellows because I want that bun to be really vibrant and bright. So I used a bit of buttercup yellow and then sand, and I blended them together really nicely to add a nice bright highlight in the middle of the bun. Now after this, I went over with a few different browns, carob cocoa and dark suntan, and this was just to add some nice deep saturated shadows which would really draw your eye to the burger and make it look really nice. And I was trying to concentrate on blending this and leaving highlights around the edges and in the middle, and trying my best to make this burger look delicious which was kind of funny because I got quite hungry while I was drawing it. Now for the lettuce, I of course had to use lettuce green. It was the perfect color, but I also used a bit of emerald, new leaf, ocean green and forest green, and yeah, that was pretty good and pretty easy to do. Now for the tomatoes, I really wanted to push the contrast, so I used my darkest red color, which was cardinal, along with sort of bright red color, I can't remember what it's called, and I left some really white highlights on that tomato to try and make it look shiny. Now after this, I colored in the pickle with the same colors that I used for the lettuce, which was, you know, those colors that I mentioned earlier. And then for the onions, I used a bit of warm gray and a little bit of cool gray. Now for the cheese, American cheese is very orange. I have noticed this, and we don't get that cheese here in Australia, and it's actually quite interesting because when I think of cheese, I think of like a bright light yellow color, but the cheese on the Krabby Patty is actually quite bright orange. So that was an interesting thing to notice, but you know what? That's okay because I think the Krabby Patty is perfect how it is. Now for the dark patty on the Krabby Patty, I really wanted to sort of push the shadows and make it really dark and delicious looking. So of course I went in straight away with burnt umber, which was my darkest brown color, and then after this I sort of left a little bit of highlights here and there to make it look nice and juicy. And then after this I actually went in with a very small amount of black. Now this is because I really wanted to push those shadows as deep as I could get them, and to make this patty look as succulent as I could. So yeah, I went in with the black and I just added a bit of shadow under where the cheese was and a few speckles here and there, and then after that I actually blended it out with the burnt umber color, and then I added a few highlights with sand and carob cocoa, and I think it looks pretty good. After this, I decided to colour in the napkin with some light grey colours and a light blue colour, as well as a white pencil just to add a little bit of texture to it. Now after this, I went in with the gouache that I had from earlier, and I used a very light creamy yellow colour, and I just drew those sesame seeds on top of the bun because you don't want to miss those, because it is a very important detail. Now after I painted those down, I added a little bit of shadow underneath them, and it really does add a nice bit of texture and detail to the bun. Now after this, I just went over with my coloured pencils here and there to refine the liner just a little bit. Now that that was done, it was time to take off the tape. Now here's a trick: use a hairdryer to warm up the tape before you peel it off, because it softens the glue and it won't rip the paper. Now here is the satisfying peel, and here is the final results of this video. And to be completely honest, I don't know why I wanted to draw a Krabby Patty. I just had the strong random desire to draw it, maybe because I'm on a diet at the moment and I really wish I could have fast food. But anyways, here's the final results, and thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Now please hit like and subscribe to get your scribble fix in the future, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone!